So we've come to sit in the woods today, and we're actually surrounded by these beauties, and we're going to have a go at a practice which allows us to just take ourselves from knowing all this amazing information about the mycelial network, how it connects underneath the trees and allows the nutrients to move from the roots of one tree to another, and how it connects even the ancient stumps here that look dead are still in living contact. And actually what we want to do today is make space to be in an experience with that, which is quite a different way of being in our minds, and we use a different part of our brain when we're in a practice of experiencing to when we're thinking about it. And as we know, mindfulness practices in nature or any deep nature connection processes are really deeply beneficial for us. Although this is the simplest thing ever, to just sit in the woods, we're really not doing anything. It's the consciously making time to stop doing, to become human beings instead of human doings, that is actually quite radical in our world, where it's a very important practice for us where we are at this time in Earth's history, in human history, to make space for what until recent times has been very much part of the human experience across the board, which is just time without any other expectations or demands, taking in and being fully sensitive to what's arising. And it's such a wonderful experience to do that in a woodland like this, but also in a local park, or looking out of the window at the sky, the wild sky as it moves, or the rain on the window pane if you can't go out. So I'm going to invite you, Ellie, you can close the eyes or you can half close the eyes, you don't have to, but just to drop into the body. And this is something you can do at home as well, and start to notice the contact points with the earth and the motion of the breath through the body, the way the body moves to accommodate this breath. And maybe becoming aware of that the trees are part of this breath cycle. I think we all find this, that when we find our stillness in a space that's not in the built environment, it expects nothing of us, and therefore we instantly feel at home and welcomed and recognised for whatever it needs to emerge. So in terms of the emotional and sort of mental processes, there's opportunity for a huge amount of unfolding here. So it's always worth taking this time to ground and drop into just being with the space and allowing the busyness of the mind to calm. And then we start to notice things that when we're in our get to places state of mind we don't see. We start to become really attuned kind of creatures of the woodland, and the beauty in seeing the shadows on the trees, the light, the different makeup of this incredible pastiche of colour. It just really starts to unfold our physical being as well. So now we're going to take that into a body practice, and we're going to meet the trees for some tree yoga stretches. So the lovely thing about meeting the tree and coming into contact with it as a kind of yoga mat is that we get to be in contact with our hands, and so there's the sensory aspect of meeting the trunk. And so maybe you want to start kind of placing your palms on the tree on this lovely beach and getting a sense of all of its decades of growth as it's stretched up in this one place. I'm going to invite you to be really in whatever your body needs in this practice, and it's quite fun, but it's really, it can be really beneficial to get into some deeper stretches and at the same time get to know our beech tree. And again, this is something that is a good way to see a different perspective on a tree maybe that you already know. So to start with, we'll just use a simple hand on the tree, and this will be our balance, and we're going to come into the tree pose and just really noticing how that feels to connect and be as one of the trees. And then taking the moment to really stretch up and be with the experience that the trees are demonstrating for us all the time with their stretching up to the light. We can also root down with the sole of our feet and stretch up with our lungs. It's such an incredible experience to be with the leaf light in that when you're looking up, isn't it? So we're going to now use our hands flat against the tree again, and you might want to have it kind of chest height or just below, because we're going to stretch back into one leg and have a nice stretch down the whole of the back body. And noticing how your hands being really fully in contact helps you activate the stretch down the whole of your back body. And then coming back up, coming into the tree for a little upper body back bend, looking up the tree, and then pushing back into the other leg. And when you're in the pose, just taking a moment to be in awareness of the whole of the tree, all of its root systems, all of its strength of its trunk, and the way it meets the sky, the tips of its branches and twigs. And coming back in, and again allowing yourself to go into this little press up and looking up. And so I'm just going to show you one more pose in the tree yoga practice, and that's going to be a bit like the chair pose in yoga. So you're using the tree as the back of your chair, and find a part of the tree that feels like it's comfortable for your back. And then really notice the contact and what it feels like to have kind of your skin touching the bark. The beech tree's got a really kind of, when I say thin bark, it feels like it's, compared to the roughness of the sweet chestnut, it feels very smooth. So, you know, both are interesting kind of sensory experiences, but let's see how it feels. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So bending the knees and noticing how far it works for you to go down, and really resting into the tree. Resting into the contact. How does that feel on your back, Ellie? Yeah, it's very cooling on a hot day, isn't it? And then you might want to also just keeping the lower back in contact with the tree and stretching up and out with the arms. That's coming into the full chair pose. So how do you feel about going to try out the woodland mindfulness practices, but from the hammock now and around the fire at our roundhouse?
Sounds lovely.
Okay. We're moving outside the woodland now to continue our relaxation, where permission has been agreed with the landowner to light a fire and put up a hammock. Doing woodland mindfulness practices looks like the easiest thing in the world, but actually you'd be surprised how hard it is to just allow your mind to be in the present moment with your senses, with the breath maybe. And you're actually training your neural pathways, you're building up familiarity with this habit, which allows you to deal better with problems when they arise and have some perspective on life's challenges. So we've got Ellie now lying in the hammock, and as part of all of our practices, we'll really make sure we take time to just be with the sensory experience of the wind on the skin, or the quality of the air at this particular time of year, the light. There's so much immediacy in the living world, which is how we kind of talk about this thing that brings us into our present moment and what's emerging. And it's so important for us as humans in this time in history who are really amazing in our creative processes and our intelligent work, but to come back into a process and experience of being is actually quite a discipline. So I've got Ellie now practicing the discipline of woodland mindfulness in the hammock. The reason that we offer these woodland contemplative practices and we really create space to come into stillness and to go into a different way of looking at the world is because we look at the three aspects to the Great Turning that are described by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnson and Molly Brown and others. And these are, the first is holding actions. Holding actions are anything that stops us from creating any more damage or from deteriorating Earth's life support systems. The second is systems change, and that's all the work that's being done to change us from, for example, from the oil-based cultures towards renewable cultures and systems. The third is a shift in consciousness or a paradigm shift, and that's what we're supporting by creating the space and by taking time in stillness. Yes, we're working for ourselves and giving ourselves the resilience and the resources to deal with our daily life and with challenges, but really importantly for EcoWild and for woodland people and the way this is presented, it's the essential space where we revision ourselves and our lives and the world as us as part of this greater earth body. And so this shift in consciousness, this paradigm shift, is where we get to be in meditative practice or just creating space, stillness. And in that, there is space for the insight or the vision around things like what's really worthwhile use of human time and endeavour and energy. And these are the things that really arise when we step away from our day-to-day. So when Ellie's lying in the hammock, it might look like she's having a very relaxing, quiet time. She's doing very important work, actually.